Welcome back to another episode of the Flyers Nitty Gritty Podcast, getting gritty with it with your hosts, Yariv Wallach, and my partner in crime, Jamie Baskow. Jamie, how you doing, buddy?
Man, you know what? Honestly, I'm doing pretty good, man. We're in a Corona world, but it doesn't matter. I'm shaking and baking that. Anytime we get a chance to talk local hockey, and especially when you have a goaltending guru in front of us here, it gets me pretty stoked, man. So I'm pretty positive.
All right, I like that energy. And speaking of which, my longtime friend, happy and very excited to have on the podcast, my buddy Anthony Merrigan, a local hockey player and community advocate, builder. I could go on and on, but a good friend of mine and somebody, we wanted to connect with, thought we'd bring on the podcast. Anthony, introduce yourself to our audience, please.
I mean, I honestly can't do it better than you just did it right there. I've never been called a hockey advocate before, but I'll take it. Goaltending guru, just as good. But you're right. I play hockey in the local community. Obviously, I run a roller hockey rink in Northeast Philly, which we'll get into in a little bit. Been playing hockey since I've been 5 years old. Yariv, you had a couple of my jerseys in your room before hanging up when I was good.
Autographed, I believe. Autographed.
Practiced my autograph since like 5th grade.
Dollars.
Yeah, exactly. But happy to be on the pod. I like what you guys have been doing. I've been following Yariv, and Yariv obviously puts me into Jamie and some of the writing. And guys are really intelligent, and it's nice to have a really good not only podcast but a crew here in Philly that is actually knows what they're talking about. So
I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you for the words of wisdom, and I appreciate that. And that's honestly to our writers too, and our writer team, and they all echo a lot of our, a lot of what we talk about, a lot of the stuff here. Obviously, you'll see some conflicting views, but all the time, it's our team, and for sure, thanks, Anthony. I appreciate those kind words.
Gotta pump your tires a little bit,
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, otherwise we won't let you back on, It's just
fair enough.
It's payment. I mean, it's clear cut. All right. So let's get down to a little bit. I do want to talk about you, Anthony, a little bit. I mean, obviously, two of us grew up. Just a little story. Obviously, Jamie and I know each other. We're kind of bringing groups together here. I will say Anthony also runs his own hockey community as well. He's got his own podcast. We'll give him a little shout out a little bit later. I'll give you a chance for that. We're kind of connecting communities here. But overall, Anthony and I met a long time ago, just as simple as trading hockey cards on the school bus as little kids. That's how long back this goes. And, just playing hockey together throughout the years, just growing up playing at Sportsplex, Northeast Philly, right? I was a newcomer to hockey. I was somebody, if you guys see today, I'm very, very focused on, the GM mindset, even some of the coaching mindset. I am not as much of a player, right? I've been around players my whole life, but I've never been one of the better players of hockey, right? And that's kind of been my downside, but I've always been very close to community. Anthony was my first introduction into that. And it's what took my, my liking of hockey and the Flyers into kind of an obsession into street hockey, into every day in the streets from, time we left school till time, the sun went down, who cared about homework? It's just about hockey, right? Yeah. So I just want to talk about your hockey team, a little bit, like what you're doing at NERC. I know you've been playing a lot of hockey, some competitive hockey. Yeah. Give us a little intro on that.
Yeah, so funny you say this because we're talking about hockey in general. It is the one sport out of all the professional sports and all the sports in the world, we have like 3 or 4 different versions of it, right? So think about that, how big our sport actually is between ice hockey, foot hockey, roller hockey, and you could even consider field hockey in there, right? Of some sort of capacity, right? So I play roller hockey, or inline hockey as it's called. I run a roller hockey rink, Northeast Racket Club, also known as NERC, in Northeast Philly. We have, like you said, really strong community. You were able to take part in it this year at the Turkey Cup and see, just how big it really is in our area. In Northeast Philly specifically, when you look at Pennsylvania as a state for ice hockey, kind of switching gears, it is a little hub of really good players. Like Northeast Philadelphia, Montgomery County, Bucks County has this nice hub of really good hockey players. So it's nice that we plug right in there as a roller hockey rink, because all the guys who necessarily don't go to that next step, like Ryan Marker he had on last week, right? He's still pursuing the dream, trying to make it to pro hockey. Those guys who fall off when it still can play competitive tend to come to roller hockey because our ice hockey men's side of things isn't that strong in this area. So we have a really strong community. I've played my whole life, as you had mentioned. We would play until your mom called us in for like cookies and milk, and we would sit there and watch Kent Manderville score his first goal in 7 games. So I'll never forget that moment.
Man, Kent Manderville. Man,
Oh,
he went all the way back there.
Yes.
I loved him because he was like a Tyler Pitlick. Balls to the wall every shift.
Absolutely.
It was an energy guy.
Belmar.
Really
Belmar.
Really became a fan favorite, even though he had trouble scoring. How many times was he robbed, man?
Me and Reeve, I'll never forget that moment. We were sitting in his room, probably
Never forget it.
half away from the TV, and when he scored, you would have thought they just won the Stanley Cup. We ran, went berserk for him.
So happy for him. I think he hit the post like 3 times that game too. It was unbelievable.
It was, man, it's not a name you hear all the time, man. I like that.
Yeah, and that's just goes to show you how hardcore Urive got, right? When we're cheering for Camp Manderville like that, right? But and Urive played with us in roller hockey and stuff, and it was just one of those things. I stuck with inline hockey because I seemed to thrive at it more. I played a little bit of junior hockey. I was a goalie in ice hockey, but I play defense in roller hockey, so kind of like a jack of all trades when it comes to that. But roller hockey is nice because it's easy to, not easy, I shouldn't say that, but it's easier to get to the highest level, right? So I've played for Team USA, which is what you would consider one of the highest levels in our sport, right? And I was a guy who went to Lower Moreland High School, right? But there's not only that, there's another kid from Lower Moreland who's now the best player in the country for inline hockey time draft. So we had this small little hub in Northeast Philly, Montgomery County area where just seemed to brew a bunch of hockey players. And that's because, in the 90s, we had that Lindros era that I think we all got obsessed with hockey, right? And that you see that with Pittsburgh. Now a lot of kids are coming out of Pittsburgh because of Crosby. Same thing. So
yeah, you're not wrong. What a player like that does to a market, or just not even for a market, right? Just for a community of hockey people. Right. You can't help but just be in awe of some of those guys, right? And I was just talking about Eric Lindros today, and I don't think it really hits home with a lot of people how truly talented Eric Lindros was. It would be, and again, I don't want to say it's the same level, but at the time, it would be the equivalent of getting Connor McDavid. Like the level of excitement, the amount of assets, the millions of dollars. I mean, we gave up Peter Forsberg in that trade, plus many other good players. Like we gave up they won a cup actually. The Quebec who turned into Colorado. Yeah. A lot of them, they've helped build a championship team for them. That's how much we gave up. That's how good Eric Lindros was. And the one thing I realized today, regardless of what era he plays in, he dominates. Today's era, that is like the one thing about him. And there are other players like this. I would say McDavid is on that level as well, where you could throw him in any era. He is still going to produce it, if anything, and then some, right? But it's like there are these unique characteristics where you're like, just so transferable, Yeah,
I would throw Forsberg in there too, just because he was so good.
If
he didn't have a foot issue and stuff like that, oh my God! Just imagine the records he would have broke.
Yeah,
but Lindros, both of them are very, very good players, and it's a shame that injuries, got the best of both, and
really is.
It is what it is. Yeah. But it's funny, Ant, because I grew up in Somerton, Somerton.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Dude, I used to play inline hockey at Lesh, on the tennis courts there.
Right? Yeah.
I went to school at Lesh, Jamie. That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So funny. But you think about it, even in that area, think of the hockey rinks. We have Sportsplex and Feast of my rink right off Grand Avenue. You have outdoor rinks at Ben Salem. And all around there, the skate zone has an ice hockey rink right there. So just in that, little area, you can hit a bunch of different hocky rinks. So that's why it wound up growing so big.
I think it's the burbs. It's the burbs, right? I mean, even look what Canada is. It's a lot of suburbs, right? Look at Jersey, right? I mean, obviously, we talked about Johnny Hockey last time, Johnny Gaudreau, right? But we know that there are really good players. And obviously, Anthony, a couple, right? The Brennan brothers from the area, right? Just from South Jersey. Yeah. Right here. I mean, I know actually, that's an example of what you were talking about, right? I believe both of them actually played in the league that you were referring to, the roller rink.
Yeah, they played tournaments with us. Yeah, it's funny. TJ, first time I ever saw, this is a good story about TJ. First time I ever saw him play roller hockey, right? Never really met him. Shayne's a very good friend of mine. He is a very good hockey player himself. Yuriv got to see him play. He's very into the physical fitness in it, and that's why TJ has always been in tip-top shape when he comes in for the Phantoms, and that's why he's been such a unreal AHL player, like arguably one of the best AHL defensemen like of all time
ever by the numbers.
And he's but we play with him. Brendan Bradley, he played at University of Vermont. He was a captain there. He played in the ECHL. And then Corey Mackin's another one who played roller hockey at our rink growing up, and he's playing for the Reading Royals right now. So you look at that, that's the competition that comes home in the summertime that all of our guys are constantly playing against. But just the level of commitment those guys have is just unreal.
Corey Mackin had a really good season for the Reading Royals this year. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he was at least third on the team in scoring. If I'm not, it could have been. I'm pretty certain that he was third, or it could have been fourth. But I'm 99.9% certain that he was the third, leading scorer on that team. He was phenomenal. I mean, he really came into his own. Not many people, knew of, Mackin and knew of his talents, and he just came in and just killed it, smashed the year. Yeah, I was fortunate to see him play in December live with Ustimenko, and it was a treat. It was a real treat to watch, Mackin out there. He had 2 goals that night, so it was pretty neat.
And his whole family comes up from Philly every game to the Reading games. Yeah, I'm really good friends. I coach a couple of his cousins actually in roller hockey. For the organization I run. But I was saying about TJ, the first time I ever saw him play, besides ice hockey, shows up to the roller rink and he's got his pants didn't even come like past his knee because he's such a mammoth of a man. Like he's just a unit out there. And I'm like, this guy, like, man, but he could only do it, right? He's the only player who'd be able to walk out there and like not get chirped. Absolutely. Because they're like, well, he's TJ Brennan. So like he plays in the AHL. Like you can't make fun of him even though his pants look like floods. You know what I mean? It's so funny. So you would have thought like, yeah,
I wish him the best of luck. I really do. TJ, he was a class act. He loved the fans and stuff. I just wish him nothing but the best of luck, to be honest.
Yeah, well, you figure where's his journey really going to end, right? Because he kind of got traded at the end of the season. I don't know if you've heard anything from him. Is his plan to stay out? Is he retiring? I imagine he's got a few years left in his career. I mean, he's not that old.
Yeah, he's a gamer. His brother's a gamer. He's a gamer. The whole family is just always like going ahead. So I can't, I haven't really talked to him about it. Obviously that's, he keeps that stuff pretty
speculation. Sure.
But he absolutely is a gamer, and I wouldn't be surprised if he, continues along the path because he's so good too. He's still good even from what I saw this year.
To give him credit, I mean, I don't know if people remember John Slaney. I mean, but TJ Brennan is like on that level.
100%.
I mean, always been. I mean, obviously he had his NHL time really, I believe, more with Toronto and Buffalo in his career. So he had kind of those moments of, playing that number 7 role, that 6 role. But look, it's a hard game. And like you can see, this guy is a local legend. And I bring this up because Anthony, I've talked about this with you. I've talked about it with other people. I get frustrated when players are called lazy and stuff. I just hate that stuff so much because it's really not the truth. It's just not the truth. There is a limitation on maybe physical, maybe a talent level. Sometimes there's work ethic, but it's usually like a minor degree in work ethic. We're talking about guys who go from 100% machine 24/7 to the guy who's working, kind of harder than the average person. And it's like, that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about people who are, kind of sitting at their butt. If they're sitting on their butt at home, like these are not the type of people we're talking about. And, yeah. And obviously it goes through cycles. I mean, we've seen guys leave the league, even at the NHL level, come back and, raise their game to that level again. But it's, to get up to that point. Actually, Anthony, this is a good question, right? We're talking about this a little bit for you, right? We're getting older, like I'm 32, you're 32 years old. Your body's getting older, right? But this is something we were just talking about, right? What is your mindset go? Your training has to change, but there's a lot of people who say they give up on players like Giroux and all that, but we see Giroux can still hit these high levels. What do you think goes in the mindset of these guys? As somebody who's kind of hitting that same age, right? How do you keep going at your age level against, better competition, younger competition, not necessarily better, but younger, fresher, hungrier?
So
question.
think you. Here's a perfect example. I got to spend time with Ryan Marker in China when we played for Team USA, playing in the World Roller Game. So basically, in every sport, the USA committee has a team. So whether it's football, speed skating, dodgeball, they're all USA committees, right? So we were lucky enough to represent Team USA inline hockey, right? Here's the difference between Ryan Marker and me. So Ryan Marker. Sorry about that, guys. I forgot.
By the way,
Forgot do not disturb. So Ryan Marker is a guy who I would wake up like 4 a.m. and Ryan Marker would be on the stair climber, right? And he would just be going. And we had a game against Canada at like 10 a.m., right? So that goes to show you that level of commitment that you guys had spoken with him about last week. Meanwhile, I'm trying to get my sleep because I know for me, as an older guy, I was 30 at that time, I know I needed to rest and recover from practice and things like that. So you're talking about a guy like Gaudreau, right? Everyone thinks, oh, he's going to fall off. He's going to fall off. How many times have we heard, oh, trade Gaudreau, he's getting old. This is the time to trade him. Meanwhile, he still produces every year. And it's because now with how sports science is, people are very particular about what they do. They have nutritionists on the team. They have physical therapists on the team and things like that to make sure that these athletes are all performing at their best. So, it's a funny example of how Marker is a workhorse at a younger age and he could just do it and it doesn't affect him. Where me, I was like, yeah, man, you hit the Stairmaster. I'm going to catch, some shut-eye for another 3 hours, get a good breakfast in, a stretch, and I'm game. You know what I mean?
And then there's sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
You look at the Flyers' current team right now, right? To some armchair GMs, and it's not very many, we would not have Coots or G on the team right now. Oh, yeah, you could add Voracek in there, too. So, our whole core would not be here right now. Who knows who would be here? It might be the John Slaney's here right now. It might, or whomever. It might be Kent Manderville coming back to life or, with the team. No, I'm being dead serious. We would not have, at the very least, G not
what are
here.
You saying? Are you saying just quitting on them, Jamie? Is that what you're talking about? Just giving up on the player themselves?
Gave up on him years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's not very many people, but he's so underappreciated by the media. Not me, the local radio stations. I mean, our media
outside of us, not us.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, no. I'm saying our beats.
Oh, you mean nationally? Yeah. No. I agree with you. Yeah.
Our beats know how good of a player he is.
Look at Canada. They didn't even put him on the team.
It's just this guy is balls to the pool. You want to talk about a juggernaut here? He is so underappreciated. It just irks me every time. That's why I'm coming out with the tweet tomorrow. It is so great to watch him play that I didn't unfortunately get to watch the prime of Gretzky. I watched the out of prime Gretzky. All these great players like Mark Messier. By the time I started following, he is like the first. And I saw Lindros grow, but prime. He was hurt. Injuries sort of derailed him. It is so good to finally see a player who's healthy and so freaking good.
You're not wrong. In his 30s, actually, for a Flyer, I mean, knock on wood, I'll find wood right there, knock on everything. I mean, he's, and honestly, let's include Jake Voracek in that as well. I mean,
he's got him too. I mean,
and let's just say Claude Giroux's actually worn the C for a long time. And doesn't have, some kind of head injury or something, because that's what's happened to every single one. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Well, Drew, I'm so sorry if you ever get hurt.
Unless he's
I don't believe in that stuff. Yeah, right.
He's healthy, so
It's
so underappreciated by the local radio stations. The local radio stations. I was hearing on 94.1 last year. Hate to throw them under the bus like that, but they were like, the top Philly athletes in the league. And G wasn't even in the top 5. And I'm like, are you serious? The top 5 Philly athletes?
Yeah, but they didn't have a hockey player on there either, right?
You know what? It's such
they don't watch hockey.
To have him in the top 5. How is that possible?
Watch hockey because they don't watch hockey.
They had Aaron Nola, who only played 2 years in the MLB at that particular time, in the top 5 over G, who has given his blood, sweat, and tears for this damn shit.
Wait, hold on. But who do you think, at the end of the day, who does that embarrass? Does that embarrass Claude Giroux or does that embarrass them?
94-1.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just shows, okay, you missed out. Like, okay, you could say he's not number one. You could say he's not number two. The fact that he's not in your top five just shows you're not paying attention.
Exactly.
It's cool, like, but I don't care. Like, that's why we don't listen to 94.1. I don't listen to the radio. No offense to 94.1, but I don't go to you for hockey takes. I never have, and I never will. And I don't go to radio. I don't care. I mean, that's why I'm on YouTube, and this is not my job. You know,
Yeah, that's why
this is who I listen to.
I'm happy Jason Murdius is back with 97.5.
He's excellent, but quite frankly, I don't listen to him because he's on the radio. I listen to him because I found him through the Flyers community, and him, he alone is the reason I listen to him. He is talented. He knows what he's talking about. He knows his stuff. He's well informed. He's well informed about goalies, and we're gonna go to that topic in a second here. He's well informed about goalies, and I like him, and I like it. And again, I don't agree with everything these people say, but I know when somebody's informed, right? It's like we don't all agree. I guarantee we won't have agree on everything on this podcast, right? But there's a mutual understanding of like what are the bounds of like reality, almost in a way. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's a lot of times where we might lose some arguments, and things kind of get a little crazy. Like when people panic and say, like the whole idea to trade Sean Couturier back in the day. Like I don't think that was ever real. I don't think there was any merit to that. It went on in the media for how long? Couturier for Subban. I'm sure it was discussed, and I don't think it was ever taken that seriously. I think it was thrown around, okay, but that doesn't mean it's a legitimate rumor. And it's like there's so much of that, and I feel like it's just important to take a step back, Just take a step back.
Yeah.
But let's go on to the next topic. I know we kind of ranted there, but I want to go into the specialty. I mentioned it a second ago, goalies. Anthony, when we grew up together, as a very young kid, this is how I don't want to say how you started in hockey. I know you played every single element of hockey, quite frankly. But for the most part, like you said, you coach, you ref, you do everything. But, goaltenders, I know you start with goaltenders, you know your thing, you know your stuff. We want to talk about Flyers goaltenders. We're going to talk about goaltenders in general. But, what makes a good goaltender? And Jamie, I want you to answer this question too. But I'll start with Anthony here. What makes a good goaltender? What do you look for in a goalie? Maybe some of your favorite goalies. Just give me a little rundown of your opinion.
So if you asked me this question, I want to say maybe 5 to 7 years ago, I would have a different answer of what I have today. So 5 to 7 years ago, it would have been like they need to be athletic, they need to be strong mentally, and some of those things still are true today. But the 3 things I say make a goalie today: position, mental toughness, and durability nowadays, right? Because one thing that we have to realize is everyone complains, the goalie equipment's this, it's too big, blah, blah, blah. These guys are insanely good shooting against them, like insanely good. So you step in that and say that you want smaller equipment when Ovechkin's ripping a 1T from that dot. Like, heck no. But the reason goalies stop it is because they're positionally sound now. So if you watch guys like Carter Hart, these new age goalies that are coming up, how do you say it? It's like Ustimenko? Is that how you say it? Ustimenko?
Yeah.
They're all technically perfect, right? When
Yes.
people come out of the corner, they're in a certain position. When they get to the half wall, they stand up. When they come to the center, they're pushing across. So how goaltenders play now is very, almost some would say, boring. But for me, it's like, oh my gosh, this is an art, because when I go to play goalie now and I try to do that, I'm like, this isn't how I was brought up. I can't play this way almost. So it's weird. You look at a guy like Elliott, who's more of a hybrid. He does some technical things, but he does rely on his size and reaction, versus a Hart, who's very technical and relies on his position 80% of the time. So, I would say toughness, position, and like I said, that durability, which nowadays 82 games, that's a long game. If you're playing 50 to 60, you're trying to get lower than that. You have a good backup. So
lots of lateral movements in today's game. I really like that stuff. And I think an example of one way it doesn't work is somebody like Peter Mrazek, right? A guy who's got a lot of skill, a lot of athleticism. But, you saw when he was here at the Flyers, I don't want to comment too much on time with Carolina Hurricanes, but I know the Flyers, there were moments where he literally was doing 360s in net. And I'm not judging him as a talent, but it's quite clear he lost his positioning completely. And it's a man who's kind of lost his composure. You do see it, and I so agree about this with Carter Hart. He's just so, especially for his age, he's just so technically proficient, and it's I don't know. I'm done drooling over him. Jamie, what about you? What do you think?
When I see Carter Hart, I look at Dominik Hasek. This dude just makes saves that he shouldn't make, and Hasek was a very, very good goaltender. And honestly, I don't really have too much to add because a goaltending guru, gave his synopsis there. So, but the only thing I would say, I had a pretty good interview with Carter Hart in 2017. Right before he was drafted with the Flyers when he played for the Tips and stuff. And one thing that stood out to me that he said, and I'll never forget it, he said, you have to be a good skater, as a goaltender. He's like, a lot of people, forget about that because we're goalies and that, in the skating aspect. But he said the game has changed so much that skating is a huge part to a goaltender in today's game, and that aspect, I'm looking for the past 2 years, sitting there at practice and training camps, and you just see the rigors that these goaltenders are going through up and down. And Yurif and you know what I'm talking about from seeing this drills after drills, and they're really skating hard. And sometimes they're the first players on the ice now. And you just see them doing laps around the rink, not even stretching, just laps, and then they're going back and forth. I don't know where that changed and how it changed or whatever, but that comment just seemed to stick out to me.
Yeah. To your point, again, in this range, 5 to 7 years, we'll call it, right, to present day, goalie skates used to be, and you kind of see it with my fingers, completely flat, right? So you had a lot of blade on the ice, and the reason that was is so you can shuffle across the rink without catching an edge and, kind of like twisting your ankle almost, right? Now, goalie skates are actually made more like player skates now than ever. They have a little bit of a bow to it like a player skate does. And you're right. If you look at me skating now, you would have never known. You would have been like, oh, he's a goalie. He's been playing out his whole life. I became the best skater on our teams because think about it. We're doing the same drills as you grow up in youth, right? I would say now it may be different, but most teams don't have goalie coaches when you're growing up in youth hockey. It's expensive to have one. Usually you did that privately. So you're doing all the same drills that your players are doing, but back in the day, even how heavy the equipment was, with 20 pounds of gear on, right? So you become this good skater, like to your point that Carter Hart said, and especially with how the skates are made now, guys wear the pads super loose and they use their edges in the crease. And that's why you'll see Carter Hart, Elliott, Alex Lyon, whoever the goalie is, they'll go out there 25 minutes early and you'll see them just moving around their crease, right? Using their edges and, just making sure that they're being, like Yariv said, efficient in the net is the way to do it. So it's funny you mentioned that because the skate itself changed how goaltending is played completely. When I started, I used to wear my pads super tight to my leg and you wanted to feel the puck when it hit you. Nowadays, everything I wear is super loose off me. I want it to just block, right? It's blocking instead of actually making saves anymore. You have to make them sometimes, like Carter Hart's save in the first game of the season. Goes across with the glove, right? Against Colorado, same thing, comes across with the glove. You have to make saves, but a lot of it is blocking and being in position.
Yeah. So what are being that you talked about Ustimenko, you seem to be very high on him, as like we are, because Yurif and I have talked about him, whether it be on the phone or on the podcast. What are your thoughts on Kirill and possibly Samuel Urson if you've seen him play?
Yeah, I've watched some video of him. He's a big guy, right? He's like 6'2". I'm pretty sure he's a pretty big dude. So here's the thing. For me, I was always so big on Felix Sandstrom. I just thought we were finally going to get that Swede goalie who, everybody dreamed of, right? You look like a Swedish person. You're like, oh, my gosh, they're a dream human being. Blonde hair, blue eyes, the whole nine. You look at Sandstrom, you're like, we're finally got this Swede goalie who's going to be good. And, he's kind of had his struggles, right, from what I understand in this year. Ustimenko came in and just struck while the iron was hot, right? He came in lightning in a bottle, grabbed the bull by its horns and just played his rear end off, right? So I think that I like his compete level more than anything in the net. He battles for every save. Same like Lyon. Lyon's just a small guy, but he battles for every shot. I like his game, honestly.
I think that's a great point. Go ahead, Jamie. Sorry.
After watching Ustimenko this year, the way he moved post to post, is it possible to get faster going post to post? Because this was the fastest I've ever seen him. or maybe that's where the determination came in or something?
Yeah, it really is. It's about anticipation, because really, if a guy's coming behind your net, right, and you're anticipating him going to the other side, you're going to move to that other post faster, right? Okay. And that's only 4x6. It can't get really faster post to post, but Carter Hart very good at anticipating the play as well. But like you're saying, Jamie, you've seen him faster. Well, he's getting a little older, probably getting a little stronger, right? Goalies have a different regimen than a player does. Goalies a lot of flexibility, a lot of agility. I always say how I lift personally, because I do both player and goalie, is I lift to be an athlete. I don't lift to be a power lifter or a big meathead, right? I lift to be an athlete, and that's what a lot of goalies do. A lot of body work, a lot of stretches, a lot of band work, and that's why you'll see him get faster and stronger post to post and things like that.
Thanks for the insight there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and it's that type of training, and I don't want to pick on Felix Sandstrom, but I actually kind of agreed with you, right? He's a really athletic goaltender. He has, I thought he had actually a really mature game, at least looking game back in the day, but you do kind of see in development camp how he tends to rely more on his athleticism than he does his structure. Where like Carter Hart, it was evident. Like he literally came in, I'm like, okay, he already looks like an NHL goaltender. That was already very strange to begin with. But then, you kind of look for the other guys who are kind of more learning their way. And Ustimenko, I mean, from what I saw even in the beginning of dev camp to what I saw later in the year, there was definitely a change. I mean, he, like you said, he physically kind of grew. And I think with that maybe comes the confidence and comes that strength, that hunger to be like, all right, well, I'm a man now. I'm going to own this side of the net. Like literally like come at me. And it's kind of that attitude, because I even think back to this one moment, and this is kind of a strange moment, but there was a moment from a few years ago with Shayne Brennan, and this is when I think this might have been his rookie year, but this is one year where he was like on fire, and he had this like little back and forth with Drew Doughty, and it was the first moment where I realized like Shayne Brennan was like kind of here, and I realized that he was kind of like legitimate because, and people can question that in some degree, but he went on to have really strong seasons afterwards. But yeah. But to any point, there's this moment where Drew Doughty was going one-on-one with Ghost, and Ghost was essentially coming in hungry on Doughty one-on-one, and he went to take one of his shots, and Doughty blocked it and went like this, at him, like, no, no, no. And I saw Ghost like look at him and smile, then 2 seconds later took the puck right on the next play and drove it right at Doughty 2 seconds later and got the shot on net this time. And I just like realized like the mentality to be like, I'm not only going to go at this player, but this is also Drew Doughty. He's like in my face, and I still have the smirk on my face that I want to challenge him and get that shot on net. And the only reason I use that example because it's that hunger that you're talking about, that same mentality. And I think this was actually Brizgalov's problem, especially at the end of his career. Oh my God, the phone call is absolutely unacceptable. So the hunger mentality that comes with that, and I think it's really, really important for a lot of these players to have, because otherwise you don't get to that next level. You don't get to that savage level where you're Yager and you're wearing a sweatsuit 24/7 and you have weights on your body at all times, and you're, waking up next to college students at like 45 years old.
Love it.
Yeah, exactly. And not even caring. Dude, the guy lives like he's 20, but that's a work ethic, right? It's a mentality. But
I just want to let you know hunger. It was Ghost's birthday today, too.
Really? Really?
Yeah, 27. So yeah. Big 27.
Well, it's funny because you're talking about challenging, right? Like, and in the aspect of goaltending, challenging is when you step out and you challenge the puck, right? And you take away more of an angle. So that's exactly it. Like when you see a goalie playing, as I say, at the top of his crease, he's a confident goalie, but that also relates to, don't want to go too much off the tracks for the goalies, but your defense too. Like I remember listening to Mike Babcock talk about when he first got Freddie Anderson, that Anderson struggled because he always wanted to make the backdoor save. Babcock didn't want him to play that way. Babcock wanted him to face the shooter and let the D worry about the backdoor, as it should be. But that can really play into a goalie's mental state as well, because if you think about it, if that goalie's thinking about the back door and the guy takes a muffin on net and it goes through his 5-hole, it's like you're blaming the goalie, but realistically, you don't know what he's thinking. He's thinking, oh, I got to get this. This is an easy backdoor goal. So that's the big part of it. Like, if you can challenge a shooter, play at the top of your crease, right, then you're obviously going to have a lot more success because you're taking away more angles with how good players are nowadays. And Yuriv, I was talking to you about this earlier. One of the other Reading Royals goalie that they had that they just acquired in the trade, Tom McCollum, I had the pleasure of playing with for Team USA as well. And now he's playing for the Reading Royals. So small world, he comes back into my he's an unreal goalie, and he's a guy who was a high pick for the Red Wings, right? They actually, I'll never forget when we were in Italy playing, they came out with like the top 10 worst Red Wings pick, and he was like number 7 on there. And we're about to like go play like the biggest game of my life, right, against Czech Republic. And he's ready to, and it didn't faze him though. Mentally tough guy, such a good teammate. Like, you could just tell that he was a pro, like an actual pro. So, but he always we talked about this a lot at length of when he can feel confident, and when he feels confident, how much better he is than when he gives up a softie the first shot. Like, Carter Hart struggles with that. When he gives up one early, you're like, oh, what's going to happen here? So
although
there's things.
It was nice to see Hart that happened. I forget what game it was, and it was sometime in February when he came back from his injury, and it was either the first or the second game. He let up, a goal that you ask him afterwards, he should have had it. You know what I mean? If you ask him, he would tell you, I played bad. But it was nice to see him withstand the game, and the Flyers won that game. I think it was 4-3. It wasn't his best game, but he did enough to get the win, and it was nice to see, because the floodgates open after that softie, and that's what the problem was with Steve Mason. After he gave up a softie, or whatever, he would just make the tough save, but let the soft ones in. He was a good goalie for the Flyers. He was a good goalie. He doesn't get the appreciation, huh?
He was underrated as a goalie, honestly.
But it was frustrating at times because it was like you shoot from 200 feet down from the opposite side of the ice or something, and he lets up a goal.
Well, I think he was an example of what we're talking about. He used mostly athleticism. I think he was a very athletic goalie, especially for a guy who was 6'4". Yeah, he could really move. I mean, I think that's kind of like what separates a guy like him and Burke back in the day, right? Yeah. He's a guy who got better as he got older, right? Where he was like kind of talented, but they had very similar size. I don't know, like Briz. I think that's kind of what I was gonna say earlier. I think I lost my thought, but I think that was Briz's kind of problem here. Is he wasn't an aggressive goalie. He wasn't that much of a technical goalie. He was a talented guy. I mean, when he played for a very organized defensive team, he could be messy enough in net that it didn't matter because the team played structured around him. But when the team didn't play very structured, which we could definitely say was the Flyers of that era, without a doubt, we make every goalie look mediocre, let alone, making them look good. Today, under AV, I mean, I'm not saying Briz would be a good goaltender, but he would probably have more success under a more structured team. And we're just getting there. I want to make that clear. This is the first year that I have seen in 7 years that the Flyers have played defense enough where a goaltender could actually benefit and leverage it. And maybe even next year, Carter Hart leverages it into maybe even a award-winning season. He's talented enough to pull that off, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe not enough, but
just a quick question, Anthony. Why is the goaltending position so unpredictable?
You know what? Because shots are unpredictable. Honestly, with how good, I go back to saying how good guys are today, right? I can, as a player, because I'm lucky enough where I get to see both sides of it, right? Because I play defense, and I play goalie too. So as a player, if I come in and I change my angle just a little bit, how much that actually throws a goalie off is insane, right? Because when you're coming out and you're squaring up to a shooter, you're preparing for that angle that he's coming at. As soon as he makes a pass or changes his angle on the shot, or it deflects off somebody, and these pucks are coming in. I mean, I don't know what the exact reaction time is, but you're reacting within, tenths of a second, right? So it is unpredictable. And then, Yuriv, you were talking about the athletic goalies, that there are still a few. I mean, you really have to take care of your body. If you're trying to play that athletic style the whole time,
Michael Neuvirth,
unpredictable. Exactly, of a groin going. You took the words out of my mouth. Michael Neuwirth tried playing athletic all the time because he was a smaller guy and he had to. Mrazek, same thing. You see him, he's starting to break down a little bit. So goalies, again, when you get a good one like we have with Carter Hart, you hold on to him. Like we missed one on Bob, it's okay. Everyone swings and misses once or twice.
Oh yeah.
We got one now. It's all right. And
no, that was like hitting a home run and then like shooting the guy who hit the home run.
The fan reaches over and grabs it, and it's like, ground roll double, whatever.
Yeah, it's like, here's your Vezina winner, and go throw him in the trash.
His first 7 or 8 games with the Flyers or something, he was a rock star in Philadelphia. He could go in like Carter Hart could right now. Everybody would be buying him beers and buying him dinners and stuff.
Absolutely.
And he's a good,
and all of a sudden it was like, trade him. He would have a bad game. But, not many. Plus, I was, young at the time. But I know some people, they were like, I don't understand what they see in this guy. And I was like, he had one bad game. He gave up, 2 goals. Okay, he's bad.
And that's what's so bizarre about that Briz signing is that, like, if you thought you had something in Bob, right, whether it was a little bit of a risk or not, why would you sign a goalie to a long-term deal like that? It just didn't make any sense. Like, you would want someone to mentor him, much like Elliott, you could say, did for Carter Hart in a way, right? You would want someone as a bridge goalie,
I don't know.
Quote me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry. Did they not? Because I forget. Did they get their butts kicked in the playoffs? They were like swept, and then that's when Ed Snider went.
It was the Ed Snider. It was the Ed Snider effect. We know what it was. We know what it was. Even Holmgren kind of told us. I mean, he kind of admitted it a couple years ago. It's not an admission. Listen, it was his call in the end as GM, but he listened to the owner. He listened to the owner's complaints. He said this can never happen again. We can never not have a goalie. So he got rid of his future franchise goaltender and brought in what was supposedly a more reliable goaltender, right? And apparently Bob won it out when they brought in Briz.
He wanted to start.
I mean, honestly, looking from what Bob did to Columbus and the fact that he left Columbus, I mean, I assume he did that to us too. I mean, look what Panarin did to New York. It's not mean. It's business. It's like, hey, I want to be a starter. I want a big contract. I'm good enough. He was right. He probably knew who Brizgalov was.
Yeah. They're both Russian. So
he might have played with him, and he was like, oh, this guy's not that good if they brought him in.
Yeah.
Or he thought he was good, which is also possible.
And that's to your point, Jamie. You talk about the unpredictability of goaltending. Look at Bob this year, right? You would have, he signed this big ticket, and he's such a hard worker. If you talk to anybody on this team, they say he's like the hardest working guy on the team, right? Which goes to say a lot for a goalie, considering you're taking 100 shots at practice and whatnot. But he's got unpredictability. He'll bounce back next year.
100%.
He will bounce back and he'll be fine. And that team, in my opinion, not to get too much away from the Flyers, that's a team. Yeah, they're on their way up. Scary. I have a friend who works for them. He's their PR guy, and he's like, dude, I go and watch these practices, and these guys move the puck. Like, they have guys that are just absolutely so skilled. They're built for this new NHL.
And Ekblad will probably, and that's what I mean. It's like they are really just one big move away from kind of elevating themselves up to where the Flyers are. I think they're but again, we have to realize they also just got a new coach, new goalie.
Transition.
Yep. Yeah. Another team I'm really scared about is Jersey. With all the picks they have. I mean, Corey Snyder's not that bad of a goaltender. I'm sorry.
Is he still with them, or did they? I think he was waived at one point this year, right? Or did I get that?
He played in the AHL for he's really not that bad.
Yeah, but they're already moving on to Michael Blackwood, aren't they? Yeah.
Right. And I like Blackwood. I'm just saying in general, Corey Snyder is not that bad of a goaltender.
Well, with the two of them together,
yeah, exactly. He's a leader, and he had that with Luongo for the while, right? Luongo was his leader, right, when he was with the Canucks. So Corey Snyder unfortunately had that hip injury, I think, right, or something like that. And as a goaltender, lateral movement.
I don't think he's ever.
It's true. But I'm going to tell you, you look at Metro Division and their goaltending. You look at Sorokin, or if I said his name wrong, I'm sorry, with the Islanders. The prospect who just signed. You got Blackwood. Hart. My God, I mean, you got
the Rangers.
Yeah, they have Gurdjieff and the other guy. I forget his name.
I'm gonna look him up right now because it's escaping me.
He got in a car accident, right?
Sisterskin or something.
Oh yeah, Shesterkin.
Then you got Elvis with Columbus. Like, you look, I mean, the only team in the Metro, and you could go with Murray and Jari, or Murray at least, for Pittsburgh because he's won a cup, and stuff.
Jari's good, man. He was an all-star this year, so.
And you look at, there's only one team in Metro
that doesn't.
The
Penguins. That's the Penguins. They should have never got rid of Fleury. He was better than Murray.
Carolina, in my opinion, is the weakest team.
Carolina. Yeah.
I know. I understand why. So I think that actually that's a great. Let's talk about this for a second here. I think the Pittsburgh Penguins are underrated for their organizational strength and depth. And I know as Philadelphia Flyers fans, we want to believe that that's not real. But when your Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins are dominant every year as a team, regardless of who's on that team.
In the NHL, they're good.
So when they get injured, they come up, they play good, and their team continues to win at both levels. And all I wanted to say is we were just talking about Christian Jarry. I mean, Christian Jarry, Matt Murray, Marc-Andre Fleury. Obviously these are all good goalies. I'm not saying they're not good goalies, but it's obviously a team in front of them that enables them to excel. Like where I think Fleury still has the highest ceiling, but all three are good goalies, right? So like you're saying, what makes a good goalie, the type of shots they face, right? Like all of this stuff is so important in how good a goalie's career is, right? Maybe the ceiling is fluctuating, but if you can be an NHL goaltender and you can get that consistency going and not be injured, you can make guys like Tristan Jarry, you can make them all-stars, right? Not because he's not an all-star, but Brian Elliott was an all-star at 1.2, right? These are guys who, they're just good. They don't need to be great. They're good. They can be consistent. They can perform. And, just because we have Carter Hart doesn't mean we have to ignore that element. And I do want to bring up this next topic. And we brought up a bunch of names. We brought up a bunch of goalie prospects. We have a few. We have Fedotov, right? We have Ersan. We have Sandstrom. We have Ross, right? We have Roddy Ross. We can keep going down. I'm gonna ask both of you. Anthony, I'm going to ask you first, and then Jamie will go to you. Is there anybody that you would remove from this group of goaltenders? Anybody that maybe you would trade out, maybe in a package deal? Do you think we have too many? Do you think maybe we don't have enough? Maybe we need to bring in more. Do we potentially swap some out, or any not that good? And don't forget, there's also Matej Tomek, who actually is going over to Europe right now to go play against men. Right?
Playing so well. Good for him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so,
I loved him when he first came on, just as a side note. Like, he's another guy with size. Monster.
Third round pick.
Yeah. But so would I give any away? Think about it. All these goalies, let's just say we have like 6 or 7 in our system right now, right? Give or take a few. We have one of those ones that we drafted that is now a bona fide, number one goaltender, right? So I don't think you could ever have enough goalies. In my opinion, I am biased. I am a goalie. So I have a little bit of bias behind it, but look how many you need to get that home run, right? So, having goaltending depth, especially because when someone goes down, again, you're going to be reliant on a Carter Hart to play X amount of more games now because that backup, is not going to be legitimate. So you need good goaltending. So, obviously with guys like McCollum who are veterans, I think the perfect formula for goaltending is a veteran and a young guy. If you look at the best teams with the best goaltending tandems, it's a veteran and a younger player. Think about how Grubauer got his position. He played under Holtby for a couple of years, right? A veteran.
Lyon, Ustimenko. You have Carter Hart, Elliott.
Yeah, and even in these days, McCollum. Yeah.
Last year Lyon played, with Carter Hart, and stuff. They rotated the net.
Yeah,
and stuff.
So and look at a team like San Jose, who's 2 young goaltenders who can't keep it together, and their goaltending's been an absolute train wreck this year. So, so what I just, I don't know if I would move anybody unless you really got some really good value, but goaltending's so hard, man. It's so hard to judge when they're going to be an actual stud, So, would I get rid of any? Probably not. And on how goaltending is now, it's a commodity to have 2 good goaltenders. So, no, I wouldn't get rid of it.
And they're trending up. And you even have a guy like Fedotov, right? And Jamie, I'll pass it to you in a second. You have Ivan Fedotov, who I know for sure a lot of people blew him off, even though I was preaching, do not blow any of these goalies off. He is 6'7", and he finally just started performing, I believe, in the KHL as well. He had really good numbers. So that is pretty impressive. He's still really young. Jamie, what do you think?
I totally agree with both of you. I would not. There is no way I would give up a goaltending prospect unless I absolutely had to where, like, okay, you are at the limit now. X amount of guys. I mean, they have time with Urson. They have time with Roddy Ross. They have time with Tomek. They have time with Fedotov. They own his rights indefinitely. Like, the Flyers don't have to rush at all these guys and say, hey, we have to hurry up and sign an ELC. No, they still have 2 more years with Urson. They still indefinite rights with Fedotov. Why all of a sudden would we just trade a goaltending prospect? 1 year they hit, the next year they don't. You look like Ustimenko killed it with the Reading Royals, struggled a bit with the Phantoms. He was 1-3. Not saying he will struggle next year, but you just don't know. Sandstrom may come in and kill it, and Ustimenko may struggle a little bit. Who's to say? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying. I think very high of Ustimenko. I think he's a really good goaltender. I was amazed by him with Reading. I'm just, using that as an example. Urson struggled earlier, in the year, with playing in a men's league now, struggled. But as the year went on, towards the tail end of the season, his final 10 to 15 games, he killed it. So, and his numbers got better. They improved. And like you said, with Fedotov, some people wrote him off, and it wasn't many, but some people wrote him off before the year began.
Forgotten about, right?
Yeah, not even wrote. Yeah, forgotten about is better. Goes in the KHL, plays 31 or 32 games, has a 2.10 GAA, in arguably the second hardest league in the world. To the NHL. Yeah. I mean, it's so impressive. It's just this position. That's why I asked that question to Anthony, because I just wanted to know why it's so unpredictable. And why, like, you have this great prospect in Carter Hart. Like, why can't every goaltender be like him? And
confidence, that swag, man. And it's that swag. It really is.
It is just amazing what Carter Hart was able to do. I'm just, like, blown away. And Yarifa and I talk about it all the time. I'm so freaking impressed with him being 21 years old.
I don't think people realize exactly how special it is to have again, I think Eric Lindros is the last guy came in here with that kind of pedigree. As far from a goaltending standpoint, I mean, literally, who has the pedigree that Carter Hart has before coming to the NHL? I know there's a lot of really good, especially Russian goaltenders are starting to come in the league. I know that. Very talented, but we're just talking about pedigree on paper. I mean, it was Carey Price, and then Carter Hart had better numbers. So what are we supposed to say to that? I mean, he literally had better numbers than Carey Price on the development process. I'm not saying it'll be better, but again, that's what we got. So that's the card we have right now, and so far so good.
I was going to say, he reminds me a lot of Carey Price.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Puck playing abilities. For God's sakes, Carter Hart puck playing ability is not there yet, but that'll grow. But he reminds me a lot of Carey Price. Really does. Like,
with his work ethic.
Oh, yeah.
He probably will get better at puck. I almost have no doubt.
He will, because it's becoming a part of the game now. Like, that could be another defenseman back there. If you have a guy who could come out as a goaltender, stop the puck behind the net, he can stop the puck behind the net and make a good first pass out. That's a huge benefit. Like, teams change the game strategy when they play against a Mike Smith, because they know if they don't put it into a corner in a bad spot where he can't come out of the trapezoid and play it, that this puck's going to turn and they're going to be not able to set up in their defensive structure, and it's coming back the other way.
I mean, we have to play against Brodeur. I mean, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Now it's time for them to play against Brodeur. And
that's what I say all the time.
You know what? He's going to continue to have his bad games. It's just going to happen. I just hope the fans, now know, like, how special he is, and that he's a really good goaltender. And don't throw him under the bus like some did when he did struggle for those 5 or 6 games, and it's not many, because I love our viewership and I love all the fans, especially they support us so good. But I'm just amazed.
Our fans are very positive.
That's what I mean. And it wasn't our fans.
Or our readers.
I love every fan, I was just shocked.
Flyers
Like, some
fans.
Penguins fans were coming saying, "Oh, he's really not that good," and I was like, "Huh? Like, are you watching the same player?" And some Devil fans, were thrown in
I
there. And I was
mean,
like,
we used to say Crosby sucks openly. So when I was a little kid, I've said it before. So
Just an asterisk next to the
yeah,
crowd sucks thing. Yeah, but I mean, it's funny because it is so hit or miss with them, and it is, it's a very volatile position, that goaltending. It's like a pitcher, right? When a pitcher's on, he's on. When he's off, get him out of there, right? They're pulling him. So, I was watching Behind the Glass over again, like the past couple of days, and
So
when
good.
he got lit up in Switzerland, right? He didn't have a great game. He came back, and that's again goes to your coach, to your defense. All of that plays into goaltending. Your coach gave you the confidence, said, "We don't care about that game. No one's going to care about the preseason games we lost when you beat Chicago tomorrow night," right? So
Hell
he
yeah.
went back, gave up, a couple like whatever goals, but made some good saves, right? And then it's all that confidence swing and riding that wave and momentum. And you saw when he came back from injury, he's become a different goalie than the beginning of the season. And he played well, really, the first quarter of the season. You couldn't have any complaints. Hit that little lull in there, but again, the team was struggling defensively. Like people were, oh my God, how did he give up that goal? It went right through him. It's like, it's an NHL player from the hash marks, and he's got nobody in front of him. Yeah, he's going to score. This is what these guys are paid to do.
I didn't see any severe struggles at all since Carter Hart has been here. I'll be completely honest with you. I know he's had a couple blunder of games. I mean, I've seen that from veteran goalies, so it doesn't do anything for me.
It's it. And my last question for you, Anthony, throughout this whole thing is, why is it always the goaltender's fault?
Your last line of defense, unfortunately. People tend to blame the goalie, but if you really understand hockey, and it's not to knock on anybody who doesn't, like but if you really understand hockey, you understand that they have to get through 5 other people before they get to that goaltender. So there was 5 other potential breakdowns before they got to that 6th breakdown, right? But people always tend to blame the goalie because he is that last line of defense, right? So I think it comes down to that. And, with that being said, Carter Hart has shown that ability to rebound after a bad game. And I know, like you've said, he had a couple stretch games where if you took those games and you spread them out every 10 games, nobody would be talking about it. But he had them back to back to back. But look at Pecorine. He was having a terrible year. He needed Saros to come in and help him up. And now he's starting to play a little, well, until everything went to hell in a handbasket here, but he started to play a little bit better, right, as a game. But that's just how it is, Jamie. Like, you were last line defense. People will always point the finger at you. But at the end of the day, you can always go back to them. Hey, what happened? You got walked at the blue line, bud. Like, I'm sorry that, Kuznetsov was coming in on a half breakaway, from the right side with low blocker.
Oh, man.
Like,
that stuff drives me nuts, man. And you know what? We have some friends, and I've been called that on myself, right? Where you watch a goalie give up a goal, and you're like, oh man, he should have had that one, and then you watch the play again, and you're like, it's a 3-on-1, and you're like, yeah, he should have, could have, would have. But there's a lot going on the ice there, and the idea is that the whole play is broken prior to even coming there, and honestly, it's been a pleasure this year under AV over prior coaches. And I don't want to just say it's AV. I think it's a combination of things. I think it's AV. I think it's the other coach. I think it's the new leadership in the locker room. But just the attention to detail defensively, it makes our goalies look better. It makes all the players look better. It took, I would say, half the season for it to really show what was producing. We really didn't play great defense until about halfway through. And then all of a sudden we were one of the best defensive, and I don't even know if it's just Yo, man. I'll be honest with you.
I'm just saying, with him being in charge of that,
he definitely did a great job. But I just think it's a team.
He just doesn't get. I'm giving him credit right now because he doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion.
I'll give him fair enough.
Him and Michel Therrien are both very defensive. If you look at Michel Therrien and Mike Yo's teams as head coaches, were very defensive people, right? And teams that played with a lot of structure, and that helps your goaltender. So think about it, right? To your point, Jamie, why are they always blamed? Why are they the last line of defense, so to say? If your goalie's hot, your team's most likely going to be hot too. Let's just call a spade, right?
Absolutely.
That's how it goes. The goalie is like the cake, and everything else is the icing and the sprinkles and the candles that you put on the cake. But the goalie is the cake, and he's what's going to drive that team, to victory more times than none. Right? You need your goalie to bail you out sometimes. This sport is game of inches. You're talked about it. Flyers have 7%, right? That margin of error is so small, right? That's crazy, that margin of error. And one thing, I don't know if you guys had a chance to listen to the new Chicklets episode, but they had or one of the newer ones, they had Brian Burke on, and he loves the idea of having a 3-goalie system almost. So think about that. It just kind of, to your question earlier, it expands that depth of goaltending you're going to need if it comes to some sort of stage with that, right? So it's pretty interesting.
I don't understand why they don't. I mean, the Flyers had 8 goaltenders necessary 1 year. I know that's an anomaly, but how often do teams really go to the third goalie and then are disrupting their AHL squad? It's like, is it really that necessary? We're throwing random people in, and I actually enjoy that element. I don't want to take that away. I think they should keep the reserves. But, I mean, it gets to the point where they get used. So I guess maybe fiscally it's not worth it for them to just keep a guy, but I don't know. I mean, look how many pitchers are sitting in go to every game in baseball and just sit there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, I always thought, even dressing in international hockey, you usually dress 7D guys, right? It's usually a 7th defenseman. But imagine having Ghost as your 7th defenseman who's splitting time with a Hag or something like that in situational play. You have your 2 pairings that were just out. You need to put a 3rd pairing out. Ooh, and we have an offensive zone draw. Hager, you're sitting down. Ghost, you're taking.
Right,
well.
Yeah, I think ideally that's how you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why international play, you have a power play specialist almost, right? So, there is that aspect of, having that extra player on as a defenseman and a goaltender, which I'm hugely in favor of. So I play both those positions though. So I'm again biased.
A little biased. Just a little biased.
Anything I'm biased about is because I have good reason. I'm pretty.
Yeah, I like you mentioning. Robert Hag. Robert Haig. I mean, he doesn't get enough appreciation. I think he had quite the year this year. I was very impressed. I was so shocked. I'm going to be honest. I wrote him off, before the season began. I thought, Sam Moran would just come in and, grab the bull by the horns there.
He might have if he was healthy.
I'm just saying in general. I'm just like, I didn't even think of, Robert Haig. I automatically penned him in as the 8th, defenseman, to be honest. And at times I thought he would be traded. So here, I'm my own enemy here, right? Gave
up on a player early, even.
I gave up on Robert Haig.
I mean, it shows why you don't do that, especially with young players, But it does bring up I'd say this is maybe our last topic of the night here, and then we'll kind of sound it out here. We have some additional players coming, right? Well, we can mention Lashinsky, we can mention Allison, Kalynuk, a little bit still up in the air. Anthony, I'll give you a second to comment on them. But overall, I do want to ask this question. This came up the other day. Has Chuck Fletcher made a bad trade? We're talking about moving players, but overall, Chuck Fletcher, as far as I can recall, you can make the argument maybe it wasn't the best return possible, but a lot of his moves, I would say he has yet to make a bad trade. Now, maybe some of those might take time for them to see, but I think for the most part he's been relatively conservative. But the moves that he has made have definitely paid off in stride, and you can even say the Hayes, but trade-wise, he has not made a bad trade from what I can tell, and the Niskanen trade I thought was a beautiful trade at the time, and I still think it's beautiful today. You can say maybe he lost a little bit on the Braun trade, but Braun delivered, right? Braun played. So, and he was valuable. And arguably we could have traded him again for similar value if we really wanted to, right? But we didn't want to. He's a good guy. He's a good player. So I'll throw this one to Jamie first and then to Anthony. Do you think Chuck Fletcher made a bad move or trade this year that you could single out?
No. The one trade that I thought was the best trade was getting rid of JF Berube. And that's not talked about enough. And that was because, to me, when you're looking at the Flyers were flying high at that point, right? The trade deadline's coming and going. So what does he do? He wheels and deals, JF Berube, a week before the deadline, to the New York Rangers to allow Ustimenko to get a spot with the Phantoms, knowing full well, okay, the Phantoms aren't going nowhere. They were, 7th in their division or 6th in their division at the time. They're out of the playoffs. They pretty much had no shot of making the playoffs. So why not wheel and deal Berube to let one of your younger goaltenders to get some action in the AHL for the following season, knowing that Berube wouldn't be here next year. To me, that just shows how smart he was. That's where I'm getting at, is that he
no flaws.
If anybody knows the Flyers prospect system better, it's no one better than Chuck Fletcher. Chuck Fletcher he attends at least one Phantoms game per week. He would try. And for people to knock it, there's no way anybody can knock him for not knowing that team and knowing who to call up. That's why AV always said, I have to consult with Chuck Fletcher. Not because Chuck Fletcher's going to call this person up. He wants to know who he should call up.
That's a good point. It's a really good point, Jamie.
System so well, he knows that Phantom system where AV does not. AV just wants to know who this player is coming in and how he could fit in, whether it's Morgan Frost, or whether it's Mikhail Vorobyev. Because if Vorobyev is hot at the time, Chuck Fletcher would come and plug him in. I'm just saying in general, that was the most underrated move in my opinion.
All right, fair enough.
But I don't really. The only knock I could give him was retaining $1 million worth of salary for the Rodko Gudas deal. And at the time, I was not a fan of that.
I'll counter that point. That was so we didn't have to add a draft pick, and the value is way off because Gudas in no way is worth Niskanen, and I still stand by that.
Niskanen's worth that extra.
We robbed him blind, in my opinion.
Yes, now we did.
Yeah.
Now, but that was. I'm gonna be honest. I have to be honest because I ridiculed that part of the deal, and I don't want to be one of those fake.
A lot of people did.
I don't want to be one of those fake people that said no, I didn't ridicule it. I did.
Fair enough. Call yourself out. I like it.
I was not happy with him retaining the mill. Because we were so against the cap and with adding Hayes and stuff, which at the time we were going back and forth. But I knew that he did not swing, that type of, pick for Hayes to not sign him. You knew he was going to get signed. It came down to, dollars and cents in term. Sorry, Anth, to cut you off.
No, you're good.
You're good. Yeah, no, Anth, go ahead, man.
I don't necessarily think he made a bad move, Yuri. I know we talked about this a little bit last week. But did he sign JVR? Was he the JVR signing, or was that was Hextall?
That was Hextall.
So that would be like my answer in recent, right? Just a little long for that guy. Like, for me, I like JVR. I think he's a good player, and goal scorers are streaky like that. And they tend to be, yeah. So a little too long for my liking, but that wasn't a Chuck Fletcher move. So the Fletcher move, I don't think he's made a bad one. I think who he brought in at the deadline, to Jamie's point, making minor moves like that are genius. Like that Derek Grant move, that's going to pay off. I love that. That dude signs. And he's been a journeyman. He's been a journeyman, but he reminds me of that. He fills a void where he can slide up and down the lineup, like Belmar used to do, right?
We might get 20 goals out of that guy one year.
He's got that pass he made off his skate was unreal. Yeah. He just drives the play. He's a good advanced stat guy. So if you look at that, and I take that stuff with a grain of salt, right? I look at that as your third tool. You know what I mean? But I think he was an underrated signing. So to flip your question, I think he's made really good rated signings that fly under the radar, like Jamie said.
So I have one answer for this, but this is going to be one that probably makes people laugh because it's going to annoy people, and they're not going to like it because it's not necessarily a knock on him because I don't know if this would actually be better, but it's another option he could have taken. So he never had to buy out Andrew McDonald, ever. All he had to do was hold McDonald for one more year at $5 million. You do not trade for Justin Braun. You keep Amac, who brings a similar thing, which is, a really good locker room guy, but a bottom pairing defender, which is what Braun is at this point in career. And you don't lose the second and the third. And you don't take Amac's cap hit year for this year and the next. Now, that's the best I could think of, but I still wouldn't say that that's a bad move because I think Braun is better than Amac. So
100%. But if you don't have Braun and you have Amac and you have those other picks, you still have 7 defensemen, right? We still have a Hag, and everyone would have thought Moran as well, right?
So that's what I was saying. Yeah,
they're like, you would have had a Moran, and even some of the other guys that are on the Phantoms, like Mark Friedman plugged into the NHL, and he did not look out of place, right? Like good right shot bulldog of a defenseman. So like they did have the D depth there. So yeah, that's a good point. I mean, and everyone hated Andrew McDonald when we first got him the first year or two. He was all right, like he was serviceable, and then he is a
bottom pairing defenseman.
Talk about that. He played so well when he first got traded to the Flyers. He played so well. He earned that new contract.
Not for 5 years.
No, contract year.
At the time, I wasn't upset about that because of the way he played.
We didn't know any better. That's our problem.
Yeah, he was a homer signing.
With the way he played, I was like, oh, okay, cool. He might give us some value. But let's be honest, he took care.
He did give us value.
Bronco. He was
played 20 minutes a night.
Volunteered his house. To house Ryan, what was his name? Sherchinsky, I think his name is, from the Humboldt Broncos. That was kind of neat.
Andrew McDonald just got put in a bad spot where he was forced to play top 4 minutes. And again, talking about confidence of a goaltender, it's every player, right? Every position in the NHL, coaches even, right? Yeah. Upper management, they all go through confidence swings like that. And, I could say from personal experience, when I was playing for USA, right, in my biggest stage, I know it's not comparable to the NHL, but first game I played bad and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to play terrible this tournament. But you got to just dig deep, and it's harder at the NHL level because it's 82 games. It's not a tournament like I'm playing 6 games. I'm like, all right, I just got to bear down for 6 more games. They get to bear down for 82 games, and if you don't have the confidence and you're putting out a position, like you're putting Andrew McDonald, who's not a great puck handler, you're putting him on the right side. He was just setting himself up for failure because he's always on his backhand.
Thank you.
So necessarily, was he that bad? People can rip on him all they want, but until you watch the game, and you're like, oh man, that's a tough play to make on your backhand,
He's just a bottom pairing defender that got paid double what he's worth. It's as simple as that.
Every team has one, right? Every team has a bad contract.
Yeah, right? For some reason, it's because our D was so bad that literally our coaches were playing Andrew McDonald as a number 2. And I think people they were so resentful of how bad defensively we were that Andrew McDonald was the manifestation of that, right? He was this overpaid, undersized, bottom pairing defender, right? Like he had nothing about his game that made him stand out in any way whatsoever. Nothing. At the AHL, Wayne Gretzky, incredible AHL player. But again, he never had anything that defined his game the next level. He was a pretty good skater, but wasn't that good of a skater. He would fall over. He was a pretty good shot blocker, wasn't a great shot blocker. He had a pretty decent shot, wasn't a great shot, though. No. It's like that's his entire Blake. But he had maybe the best attitude of like a lot of the players on the team, and I think that's why he survived for so long.
Yeah, he's very vanilla.
Zero maintenance guy. That's what he was. Zero maintenance. Never complained. Smile on his face. Yes. Well, I would too if I made that much money, but I would take the hate.
Speaking of Wayne Gretzky, it's funny you mentioned him because I just saw a stat before we came on here from Emily Kaplan. She's from ESPN. When he retired, what was it, around 1999 or something like that? He held 61 records for the NHL. Do you know today he still holds 60? Only one record broken, and I didn't, look in to see which one was broken, but
that's crazy.
I did not know that. That is a ridiculous thing. That's
insane. No. And for him to say how good McDavid is, and he's like, yeah, if there's one person who can catch me, it's going to be that guy. Like, that just goes to show you how sick McDavid is. Like
McDavid, the only player who doesn't need line mates in the league. Yeah. It's the only to produce points. That's not a strategy. The way he plays is not a strategy. You don't just take the puck up the wing around the other team and into the net. That's not a real strategy. That's just all he does.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like Think about like Crosby did that with like Pascal Dupuis.
Yeah.
Chris Kuhn, like they're good NHL players. Don't get me wrong, right? But everyone in the NHL is good to some degree, right?
Yeah.
But he is just insane. That guy. Like did you guys watch that documentary they had on his rehab? of his injury.
I did not see that, no.
Boys, how fast he rehabbed. Like, I was watching with my fiance, and we were just like, this guy is a freak of nature. You came back from, like, ACL tears and stuff within, like, weeks. Like, the dude was an absolute freak of nature. So, just goes to show you, he's, like, next level NHL player. That's what they're going to look like, right? So, it's going to be beautiful to watch.
Machines.
Like, and I'm
robots.
and I'm a traditionalist in a way where I still like the personality. I still like the fighting. I still think it's needed in our sport. But I do love the skill aspect of it, because when I have guys who play against me, or I get to coach guys now that have that high skill, and they're just sitting there and they're doing things like Michigans and between the legs to this, I'm like, I just can't even think of that. Like, I can't even think that move up, let alone do it, you know? So what he does on a night-to-night basis just drives the play is unreal. So, man, we're so lucky we get to watch him for like another, hopefully 10 years or plus, whatever. So
hopefully, yeah.
I just think one record that'll never be broken is that 220-point season, or was it 229 points?
yeah. He had 92 goals that year, I'm pretty sure.
It's like
100 something assists.
He wasn't even trying. He was just like, yeah, whatever.
that stuff is comical, then. But we've gone long on this one. Let's call this one a break. Anthony, and Jamie, obviously, my partner in crime as usual. This has been one of our best episodes, especially for having a coronavirus type of off season, or whatever you want to call this period where they don't officially cancel the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. No negativity. We're going to end this positive. Anthony, thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate you coming on. Let people know where to find you, where to follow you. I know you got another podcast. We'll be on Anthony's podcast at some point in the future. We discussed it, so check us out for there. But we'll have more stuff with him in the future. But Anthony, leave our fans off here with a note.
I like this. It's like Hot Ones. Get my little 30 seconds of fame here. No, I appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, I've been watching all the YouTube videos, reading the articles and stuff like that. So you guys are doing a great job. And just starting out this year, right? Basically getting everything up and running this year. Pretty impressive, the following that you guys have, and educated followers, I should say. Would love you guys to get on our podcast. I do one more so based on my leagues, but I do talk about other current events and stuff like that. So I would love to have you guys on, just because I think the demographic of who you're going to, be, speaking to, all hockey guys, all guys that are bored as heck right now.
And local.
Because they have nothing going on. And local. So it could just grow. I'm telling you our rink following is like a cult. So if you ever get a chance to come up, come up to NERC, you can go to nercsports.com. If you're interested in playing any hockey or learning a little bit about roller hockey, we have leagues from absolute bender to absolute pro. So bender to beauty, as we call it, there at the rink. So if you're looking to play some hockey, Jamie, if you want to get back on the wheels, by all means, man, come on over, brother. Yuriv, same to you. But I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a heck of a time. We could have, had this conversation for 10 more hours, I feel like. So
yeah, without a doubt. We'll have you back on for sure. I mean, no doubt about it. Jamie, anything up for our listeners before we go?
Yeah, I'd say we do one podcast in Anthony's honor where we're both on blades and just record for an hour.
You got to keep up with me, man.
Neighborhood, man. Let's see how that one goes.
I could still skate. I got my skates.
Your read was fast. Your read was fast. That was your.
I could go. I was good on a straight line. That's what I could do. From point A to point B as fast as I could. What was the character from Mighty Ducks?
Luis Mendoza.
Yeah, that was me. I was Mendoza without the skill.
No, but honestly, it was an honor to have you on, and more of a pleasure. Follow us at Jamie Basco, at Your Reef Wallach. We appreciate your viewership. Love you all. Thanks for following Anthony. Please give him a follow. He's worth a follow. Definitely look into the Northeast Racket Club. He's the head there. I'm telling you, they're throwing off some good stuff. You love hockey, that's your spot.
Absolutely, man.
Hell yeah. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you following. We'll be back next week. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.
Peace.